My ex and I divorced about 12 years ago. We have a teen son together. She married a guy a couple of years later. He has a daughter, 19, so my son has known her for about 10 years. She's always been nice to him, and there have never been any serious arguments between them. My ex and her husband live about an hour and a half from town, so when she got into college, they decided they didn't want her commuting 3 hours a day, especially in winter, so they budgeted for her to live with friends while in school. I've known this girl since she was 7 years old. She's an intelligent, charming, and friendly kid. She's also burnt out from school. I'm not going to defend her actions. She lied to my ex and her father about dropping out of college. She did her first semester, but she was overwhelmed and dropped out. And she didn't tell them, but she kept the money they'd sent for her housing and food. She shouldn't have lied, but I understand why she did. They cut off her funding and told her to get a job, which is totally fair. If you aren't in school, you should be supporting yourself. She had enough money to make it to July. She found a job, but it didn't pay enough to cover her living in the city. Her dad and my ex wouldn't let her move home. My son called me to ask if I could help her out. I thought about it and I said I would. I have room in my house, so I told him to have her call me. We discussed it, and she moved in at the beginning of this month. She's paying rent she can afford and buying her food. She's also doing chores around the house. My ex found out what I did and lost it on me. Their plan was for her to be so desperate that she agreed to return to college, with them keeping a closer eye on her. I screwed everything up by not letting her become homeless. Her husband is angry with me for interfering with the kid I'm not related to. I can understand where they're coming from, but I think they aren't doing the right thing. I just want my son to know she's in a safe place. I also think she'll return to school once she figures out how much it sucks to only have a high school diploma. Edit. I knew I had forgotten something. Her mom and dad's family are all in Alberta, and she doesn't want to move there. And please know that, to my knowledge, she isn't into people with the Y chromosome, and I'm not into girls young enough to be my daughter. Not the idiot, big time. She's burnt out in her late teens, and someone calls you an idiot for helping her? Wow. Their plan was for her to be so desperate that she agreed. As someone with mental health issues, who also overworked themselves and had to drop out of uni, your ex makes me really angry. I cannot understand why any parent would let this knowingly happen and even make it worse. That's just cruel. You potentially saved her from stuff like depression or other struggles. She must have her reasons that she lied to them. Her parents sound controlling. Do they really want her to be homeless? That's beyond cruel. I do think it's funny that her dad and your ex didn't think your son was caring or smart enough to try to figure out how to help his sis. Kudos to him for trusting and asking you. College isn't for everyone. She should have told them, but from their attitude, it seems she knew it would be futile. I'm a psychologist, and I've had a few clients in similar situations. Do you know what I've never seen? Financial coercion leads to healthy and happy adults. Her parents should be ashamed of themselves. Clearly, she knew her parents wouldn't support her trying to take care of her mental health. These people are okay with their daughter being homeless on the streets of Winnipeg if it means they get their way. That's so incredibly messed up. She lied as a survival mechanism because she didn't see any other way. Again, that doesn't make it okay, but the psychologist side of me has a lot of compassion for folks with parents like hers. My mom called me last week and told me that my stepsister, 25, was stranded with nowhere to go. I, 25 male, have not seen or spoken to her in 7 years and said no to her staying overnight with me. I told my mom the name of a couple of safe hotels and considered that my effort to help. My mom was angry. She asked me why I wasn't willing to let her stay, and I said someone I hadn't spoken to or seen in over 7 years was basically a stranger, and I didn't want her in my place for that reason. Not to mention, I live with roommates, so it's not like it's my decision alone. I've known my stepsister since we were 7, but we did not bond as siblings, despite living in the same house, and never cared about each other to stay in touch once we moved out for college. I don't know if she still feels the same, but we used to consider ourselves only children, and I still consider myself an only. She's in no way close to my mom. I'm okay with her dad, but nowhere near as close to him as I am to my mom. The news that we hadn't had contact in 7 years was news to my mom, who promptly dropped it. But her husband and her mother-in-law were furious that I would think of that as a good excuse to leave a young woman in a strange, to her, place without somewhere to go. They said we were family, and I didn't even ask my roommates. I just said no. They told me I should be ashamed and disgusted with myself. He told me he would expect the same of her in my shoes, and how could I not feel bad about leaving her with possibly nowhere safe to stay? She couldn't get a room anywhere, so I think she stayed overnight at the bus station and waited for a bus she could get on the next morning. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your mother and her husband can send her money for her stay in a hotel if they care about her. You're not close and didn't contact each other for 7 years. I don't know why your mother thinks you'll accept her in your place. Don't feel bad. She has other options that she doesn't use and chooses to wait at the bus station. But her husband and her mother-in-law, why would you care about them? Not your circus, not your monkeys. Sure, you are the idiot. Most humans extend mutual aid to the people in their family circle. You don't choose to. That's okay. But it means others in your family circle won't trust you to be there for them. You're entitled to make your own decisions, but then you've got to live with your family, giving you a side eye for being unwilling to extend a hand to a tribe member in trouble. One night would not kill you or your roommates, and a decent human being wouldn't have problems with it, and you know it. Just don't come crying when your family won't help you because of your lack of desire to help. Stepsister's 25, not 16. A grown darn adult can rent a hotel room, rent a car, or make other travel arrangements. OP's family and the people hyperventilating in this thread need to take a moment and collect themselves. She isn't abandoned. She has a phone. Call an Uber to a hotel like every other adult on the planet. OP, I seriously doubt she couldn't find a room at a hotel. They were likely assuming they could bully you into housing her for a trip, and possibly told you she couldn't find a room so that you would feel guilty. I, 34 female, am a stay-at-home mom and have not worked outside of an internship I hated during the summer after my sophomore year in college. In our extended family, I don't know one female member who has not been a stay-at-home mom, at least that I've met. However, one of my cousins is considering being a sales rep from home once her kids are over 5. This is common among the LDS community we are part of in Utah. My husband owns 2 businesses, and my uncle is a surgeon. Still, even in parts of the family, like with my mom and dad, where we were less affluent, women stayed home if they could. However, just because women stayed home didn't mean they weren't an essential part of educating their kids, therefore setting them up to be good role models for their kids. My husband and I have 3 kids. Our oldest is a young teen female, and her dad and I don't really like her attitude these past few years. She was just being rude to many of the authorities around her. Yes, that includes the church. Our policy is, just because somebody may become a housewife doesn't mean they shouldn't be on the honor roll. Maybe it's because my husband and I are both people pleasers, but I remember that in middle school, I wanted to make my family proud and get them extra respect from the community by getting good grades. In addition, getting good grades requires good judgment and the ability to pick things up quickly, which is essential to being a good parent. However, my daughter's become unmotivated. She had a C in algebra last year. A lot of her homework questions have been Googled before, so if she wanted to be lazy, she still could have referenced those answers for homework. Yes, she needs to do her own work and understand the material. Still, if everybody else's online answer is different, that should make her think about why. We had a talk, since school started, about how little she seemed to be putting into classes that didn't interest her. She's taking geometry this year, and we expected a B+ or above. She said, "Well, I'm going to stay at home anyway. Why would I need geometry? Do you use geometry to do your job, Mom? I think you just use basic math and English." I was so angry and felt ambushed by this question. So instead of yelling, I decided to deal with this gracefully and walked away. But my husband yelled at her and sent her to her room. It's been a week and she's tried to talk to me, but I'm upset she's not attempted to apologize. And not just sorry, but recognize she's implied that I'm not a worthy role model or trying to get me to seriously answer a mean rhetorical question. My husband said he'll be talking to her to apologize. Still, she's upset now. I'm just going about my business with her sister and brother. Am I the idiot for giving my middle schooler the silent treatment? Obviously, you are the idiot. She's supposed to be the child, not you. The silent treatment? That's unacceptable and infantile, even when you do it to another adult. Doing it to your own child? What is wrong with you? It's disgusting and pathetic. Your child is more mature and reasonable than you are. But, she decided, instead of yelling, to deal with it with grace. That totally makes it okay. Even ignoring the housewife thing, giving your kid the silent treatment is immature and abusive. OP, she's your daughter. Swallow your pride and teach her a lesson, for goodness sake. She doesn't have anything to teach her daughter. OP herself has the mentality of a petulant young teen, and she's giving her daughter the silent treatment for doing the same to her. OP, you're raising this girl in a wackadoodle cult, and the only behavior you've modeled for her is being some misogynistic idiot's wife and doormat. You are the idiot, and a failure as a woman and a parent. She is learning. She's learning from example you. If you expect her to have goals above and beyond, step up yourself to be something more than a stay-at-home mom and give her proof that education is essential. This isn't about who you are, but about what you do. So you need to show her something different that changes her perspective. My 23 female, boyfriend 26, recently moved in with me. Since then, we've had some disagreements about chores. He wants me to tell him when to do what. I told him that it was unfair to expect me to carry the sole responsibility of the household and always to be aware of when something needs to be done. He said it wasn't that much work. Recently, I asked him to set the table while I cooked. The table was slightly dirty with some stuff scattered around from hosting a game night the night before, and he said it as it was. I asked him why he didn't clear off and wipe down the table, and he said, "You didn't tell me to." I should have asked him to clear the table, wipe it down, and set it. So it was my fault. So I made a list of set chores that always needed to be done, like changing sheets, cooking, dishes, cleaning the bathroom. To divide them, I gave myself about 40% and him 60% of the work. He told me this was really unfair. I told him that managing everything is work too, and if he expects me to do it, it's unfair to expect me to do equal chores on top of it. Edit. The table was sticky from spilled drinks, with empty cans, papers, pens, dice, and game boxes scattered around. There was barely any room to eat. He lived with family before this. Now we pay bills 50-50. I want to continue this relationship and hope he's going to deal with this. Dinner ends. You. Honey, can you take care of the dishes? Him. Throws dishes in the garbage, breaking them. You. What the heck? I just wanted you to wash them. Him. You didn't tell me to wash them, just to take care of them. You. Hopefully looking up weaponized incompetence online. Not the idiot, but to be honest, this would be a deal breaker for me. You're not his mother. He shouldn't require you to give him orders. Imagine having children with this guy, who cannot be expected to do jack unless told. Is this what you want for the rest of your life? And if you accept this deal, you bet sooner or later he'll complain that you're nagging. Google weaponized incompetence and mental load and think long and hard about this relationship. You're very young. I guarantee there are many better men out there. Have high standards. My ex was like this. He always told me he didn't mind helping. I just needed to tell him what to do and when. That he didn't have the same level of cleanliness that I did. He'd say he doesn't notice when things are dirty. Or I'd ask him to clean the ensuite shower because I hated doing it. Glass doors. He'd tell me he'd clean it next time he was showering because that's easier, but he'd forget. I refused to be a girlfriend who nagged, so after a while, I was tired of asking and stopped. One day he was literally playing games as I cleaned around him, getting the house ready for his friends to come over. It was exhausting. Then I remembered the story his mother told me about how useless his last girlfriend was and how she'd go over to clean and the girlfriend would just sit there while the mother vacuumed around her. I'm only just realizing now how smart the ex-girlfriend was, except I can't live in a dirty place. Anyways, rumor has it that the ex now has a house cleaner. Shocked. OP, he won't change. I, female 38, have been with my husband, 41, for 5 years, married for a few months. I have 2 daughters, a young teen and a tween. My husband has a daughter who passed away 8 years ago. Her room is still the same. He never changed anything, took anything out. My daughters and I lived in an apartment before moving in with my now husband. My daughters have to share a room. The house has 3 bedrooms, but because his daughter's room still has everything in it, my daughters share. It's okay to keep some of his daughter's stuff, but it's ridiculous to keep her whole room, especially considering it's been 8 years. Today I asked if he would consider removing some of his daughter's stuff so both girls could get their own room. He got upset and said I was insensitive for expecting him to get rid of his daughter's stuff. I told him it's been 8 years, and I'm not expecting him to get rid of everything, just enough so both girls have their own room. He got mad and says he thinks he made a mistake marrying me because I'm an insensitive idiot, and it shouldn't matter how long it's been. He's 100% correct. You are the idiot. You made a mistake not discussing this before marrying. Still, you are the idiot for thinking there's anything ridiculous about his grief or how he deals with it. It's likely a mistake he'll quickly rectify because he won't trust you to not go behind his back and change the room. Agreed. She should have tackled this situation a little sooner, and she just can't clean the room and then immediately move her daughter in. He needs time. She's the idiot for not figuring this out a long time ago. She also seems to lack empathy. She didn't clean the room out. She approached her husband about respecting the needs of her children, who likely would appreciate having their own space. Having 2 teenage girls sharing a room while another room is a shrine is not a sustainable solution. She didn't need to figure his grief out sooner, as she waited 5 darn years by being in a relationship with him. Now she's married to him, and he's either accepted her daughters into his family or not. If he's not accepted them as part of the family, he's an idiot. If he has, then he's an idiot for not being able to see their need for space. He must address that his daughter's gone, and he's agreed to be a guardian for 2 other young girls. OP's not the idiot. There is indeed no expiry date on grief. It's also true that the quality of your present depends on prioritizing the living. Maintaining a shrine to his dead daughter was never a healthy path for grief. I'm constantly surprised to read how couples blend families with a big elephant like this in the room without premarital counseling. If he won't agree to counseling, you need individual counseling to explore how much of your daughter's life you're willing to sacrifice for his dead daughter. Do you expect them to live forever in her shadow? I can't imagine marrying a woman with kids and thinking, 3 bedrooms, that's 2 for me, and the girls can live in the 3rd one in perpetuity. It feels like he's the kind of guy who would rather tough it out than to go to therapy at the expense of people he ostensibly loves. Boy, in a decade, we're going to see a post, "Am I the idiot? I don't want my stepdad to be a part of my wedding." I kind of see it happening, given this story.